Children of mixed races can face increased pressures when it comes to defining their race. Why is it that some biracial children identify as one race over the other, and what are social factors influencing their decisions? In this video, we will examine how social forces such as family, communication, and the type of biracial mix may help shape the racial identity of biracial youth. Overall, our main purpose is to examine the issues of identity that biracial children may face. In 2000, the U.S. Census Bureau had to change the race options because old documents were not representative enough of the rapidly growing and diverse population. In 2000, they added Hispanic, not Hispanic of origin, and other. This option provided biracial individuals a new choice for classifying themselves. Data showed more than 6 million people identified themselves as biracial or multiracial.
Not in my house. Married to a black man? Are you crazy? What's up with that white chick you come out? What's up, man? You gonna marry that chick, man? Damn, bro. Ozzy was black and she was white, and now they got a biracial child, and that was good. And when the children go to school, that racist teacher he ridiculed. That wasn't good. He said, are you black? All you want.
The U.S. Bureau of the Census reported over 827,000 interracial married couples existing in the United States, with fewer than 200,000 of these between African Americans and Anglo Americans.
Any family in which one of the parents is white has an extremely higher rate of multiracial identification. For the majority of parental combinations, children's racial identities closely match those of their father. In contrast to this fact, most Hispanic white females identify as Hispanic, while the majority of Hispanic white males identify as white, regardless of which parent is Hispanic. For many children of Asian, non-Asian couples, multiracial seems to be the most prevalent choice of identification. In the southern region of the United States, the majority of Hispanic white children are labeled as white by their parents. Also, the higher the family's socioeconomic status, the more likely it is that their child will be labeled as white. Whiteness has historically been promoted to the highest ranking race in our society's pattern of stratification. This fact has led many parents of mixed-race children to classify their offspring as white, perhaps to gain an advantage. According to a 2005 study, 57.2% of children were labeled as white, 17.7% as Hispanic, 14.2% as Black or African American, 6.5% as Asian or Pacific Islander, 1.7% as American Indian or Alaskan Native, and 2.6% as more than one race. It is important to keep in mind that these numbers represent the racial designations used by the parents to describe their children, not the number of children who are biologically classified as such. By comparing the biological parents' racial designations, the researchers discovered that 10.4% of the children were biologically multiracial. This is interesting because only 2.6% of children were labeled as more than one race by their parents. Out of all of the biological parental combinations, the most prominent combination was white-Hispanic, 43% of interracial unions. Black-white couples accounted for 14.4%, and white-Asian couples accounted for 14.1%.
If from a racially diverse neighborhood, you are more likely to identify with the minority parent than if from a predominantly white neighborhood. As far as education, it plays a large role in the minority identification, and this is due to the fact that well-educated minorities are more aware of racial differences and realities in American society than are their less educated counterparts. Large social factors which attribute to the tendencies of children to associate themselves with one racial group over the other are neighborhood compositions, education, characteristics of married versus non-married couples, and the race or ethnicity of the minority parent.
In a study of black-white mixed individuals, sociologists found three major ways in which family can influence how the biracial child forms racial identity. The first key influence was parental awareness. Specifically, if a parent lacked understanding about being biracial and could not find a way to relate to the child was more likely to feel frustrated because their main support system, family, was unable to relate to them. This often led to feelings of introversion and confusion. The second major influence shaping how a biracial child formed racial identity is the impact of family structure and lack of role models. If a child grew up in a single-parent household, the child was more likely to resent the race of their absent parent. The third major influence shaping the identity of biracial youth is family communication and willingness to talk about race issues. Negative messages a child heard from family members about race greatly impacted how a biracial child felt about their biracial designation. Negative comments were internalized by the child not only as attacks on their parents, but also attacks on themselves as children who were produced out of this union.
There are various models dealing with biracial youth's identity development and self-esteem development. The model dealing with self-concept has three fundamental tasks that the child must complete to have developed a positive self-concept. These tasks are, first, the integration of dual racial and cultural identities, while also learning how to develop a positive self-concept and a sense of competence. 2. The integration of earlier identifications into a consistent personal identity, as well as a positive racial identity. Third, the completion of related tasks, such as establishing positive peer interactions, deeming sexual orientation, deciding on career options, and separating from parents. The other model discusses the process in which the biracial child accepts all of their races and cultures fully. The first step in this model is personal identity. Biracial children tend to display identification problems